Welcome back, everyone. My name is Amber. Thanks for joining us. If you have not already watched the second episode of HBO's adaptation of The Last of Us, this is your spoiler warning. What are you doing here? Get out. Save this video to come back and watch later, obviously. So it is kind of my birthday, and I feel like this episode is Neil Druckerman's personal gift to me. So thank you, Neil, for that, because it is another killer episode. So this episode was called Infected, and compared to the pilot, it had a lot more ground rules to cover, and it had to be a little bit more informative in nature. I really can't complain about much with this show, but if I did have to choose something to be my least favorite moment, I did get a little bit of motion sickness from the shaky camera movements when Tess and Joel and Ellie were walking outside in the daylight for the first time in Boston. It did not feel good to me. Maybe I was just sitting a little too far away from the TV, but it was not for me. And I'm not going to go back and watch it because it hurts my eyes. Also, on a selfish note, I kind of kept waiting to see a hero shot of a brick or a bottle, which are artifacts that are so clutch in the PlayStation games, but I did not get anything close to that in this episode, and it feels like it's about time to start seeing a brick. But we did have a lot of wasted ammunition. I was hoping for, maybe it's not time for a Molotov cocktail, but like at least a bottle or a brick. I mean, that feels selfish, but I was waiting for a character to pick up a brick. So, on to my favorite moments, and that would be plural because there are just too many good things. I cannot just pick one. Do not make me pick just one. I will just say them very quickly, okay? So the fungi tendril responding to the corpse on the ground when we get to the Capitol House, and like sort of the way that they handled the fungi signaling a horde of zombies or a horde of infected like over a mile away was so well done. I cannot believe it. And again, I know I said this last time, but how fast they sort of animate and come to life when they sense, I guess, a healthy host. It's just so creepy to me, and it feels like just the right amount of pacing to like really get my heart beating, and the way that they do the tendril with the fungus coming through more of like a vine instead of like a spore in the air, which would be like how they did it in the game, was really, 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 really well done. I can't believe how creepy they made a vine feel. I mean, raise your hand if you have seen Fantastic Fungi, the documentary on Netflix, because, wow, talk about using biology and science to scare the crap out of people. Hello, they used real science. That is, I mean, fungus can actually talk to one another very quickly in different parts of the forest, and they used that to scare the crap out of you in this episode. Brilliant. The actors who played the clickers that we find in the museum were so good with their like little movements, and the way that Ellie kind of acts like she has a bite and kind of around in the beginning of it is so good. I really appreciated the details of that, and it was kind of funny to see her make fun of it for a second, even though it wasn't a funny joke. I also really admire the sound design in this. They really played with silence in this episode, and it really pushes the pace along nicely. I remember feeling goosebumps in the first episode with a beep beep, beep beep of the thermostat. And then I got goosebumps again when Tess was at the state building and she's trying at the last minute to flick the lighter flame for what felt like an actual eternity. She's flicking it, and 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 I'm just like... So yeah, I appreciate getting to see what happens to Tess in the state building, because in the games we don't really get to see how she slows them down, so that was a really special moment for me as a fan of the game. But just the sound design, the lack of sound, how they have to be quiet, and the crunching, and the creaking, and the creeping, and the... just... hats off to the sound design in this freaking series, because they know how to keep it tense. I also loved the Jakarta flashback, which brings me to what surprised me. I would say the biggest surprise for me was that the infection started in the flower. I can't believe that I missed this, but big shout out to IGN for bringing my attention that in the pilot, the radio mentions there's a flour shortage or something in Jakarta, which was just foreshadowing how widespread the apocalypse was actually about to be. It's a little bit different than they did in the game, which again, I don't mind, but since flour was ground zero for the virus, Joel and Sarah actually escape getting infected 4 times in the pilot, and I really didn't catch it. I catch the second one. I knew there was something wrong with those biscuits. In the pilot, you actually see Joel and Sarah avoid flour 4 times. Do you remember what they were? The first one was when Sarah tries to make birthday pancakes for Joel. The second one was when the neighbors offer her biscuits. I knew there was something off about those biscuits. The third time was when the neighbor offers her cookies and she seems excited, but then she finds out they're raisin cookies instead of chocolate chips, so she passes. And then the last time, Joel forgot to pick up the birthday cake on the way home. And I was like, it makes me want to rewatch the freaking episode. Did anybody else catch that? Am I the only one who missed that? The detail in this show deserves all the awards. Name another show that has that many details. Name another show that has foreshadowing not well done. Name one. Ugh, so good. Honestly, the entire Jakarta flashback was very surprising to me. I noticed that they are keeping the colors of the past drenched in yellows, whereas it seems the present day is more greens. I don't really have a point about that. I just noticed it and wanted to point it out. The actress who played the professor in Jakarta was so good. She had me in tears, and I appreciate how little dialogue was needed to create such horror. The acting in this game is so good. She said, bomb the entire city? Are you kidding me, dude? She really made you feel like she was the only one on the planet who understood the gravity of the situation. And it was done quickly, but it was done so well. It was done so well. That actress was so good. My goodness. Which brings me to, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate this episode? I think it's safe to say we're not going to beat the pilot, and that's fine. And again, I don't expect an episode of television to be perfect, but I will have to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, -1 for the shaky camera. -1 for not showing Joel swimming to get Ellie a ladder once we learn that she can't learn how to swim at the hotel, because I was kind of expecting that. And in the game, we swim around a lot and get ladders, and it's like a whole experience. And I mean, I did enjoy the bit about them crawling through the water, but they skipped over it and I was kind of bummed out, and whatever. It's kind of a silly thing, but there really wasn't a ladder situation, and I was kind of looking forward to it. Also, -1 for not using a brick or a bottle yet. However, +1 for creative use of flour. Never thought I'd say that. And I would also say +1 for adding creative context to how the infection started by using the Jakarta flashback. So I think I got to give it a 9. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this brief because I am running out of time, but there are so many other details that I could literally nerd out over. The recreation of Tess's final moments was very well done. We don't get to see that much detail in the game, but I think if it's more of a okay corral shootout situation, and there's more military involved, which is fine. I really didn't miss it. It was a creative choice that they made, and I'm fine with it. I also really enjoyed the journey through the vine. I was going to say vine infested, but now maybe I can say vine infected museum in Boston, and the brief discussion on how Boston was bombed in 2003 to slow the spread of infection. It was given a lot more context than I had before, and so I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the way that Joel expertly wrapped Tess's ankle when she busted her ankle in the museum, and it reminded me how his daughter broke her ankle in the pilot, and he was like triggered to take care of it real quick. I thought it was so visually pleasing how Ellie was bathed in bright light at the top of the episode, and Joel and Tess were kind of in the darkness, and how she represents a sliver of hope in a hopeless world. It just was so visually stunning and lovingly crafted, and I just enjoyed it so much. And let me tell you, I am so excited to see our old friend Bill, Booby Trap Bill, in the next episode, who's going to be played by Nick Offerman, who I love, and I'm excited to see him in a more serious role, and he is just perfect casting for that. Really excited for the next episode. I hope you are too. Let me know what your favorite part of the episode was. This episode was a little bit scarier, so I would say that if you're not a fan of the game and you're a little bit scared of horror or jump scares, this might not be the episode for you because it was a little bit tense. But so good. So good. And we are flying through the story, in my opinion. So I am so excited to see what they do next, and I can already tell I'm going to want more than 9 episodes of this TV show. But enough about me. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you in advance for subscribing and liking the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!